So what's the latest details tonight? Tonight, the White House admits they can ramp up production in West Texas, but hasn't done it. In fact, not responsive about the situation at hand. What is the latest quote tonight on Evenings LALATE? We're looking in good position from what we know for the U.S. economy. We don't import a lot of Russian oil. That's true. But what else did the Cecilia Rouse chair of the White House Economic Council say? We're looking at other options we could take right now to cut the U.S. consumption of Russian energy. Okay. But what really most important is we maintain a steady supply of global energy. Again, unresponsive to the situation. Why is this unresponsive to the situation? Number one, the United States only imports 5% of its oil from Russia. That's not the part of the equation that anyone's worried about. The part of the equation that no one is getting a response from the White House is why are we ramping up production in the United States? Ramping up production in the United States will bring down the price of gasoline in the United States, and it has nothing to do with Russia. Because Russian oil is only 5% of our U.S. economy. Oil can be ramped up in West Texas. And West Texas has said, we're ready to ramp it up for the American people. We're ready to ramp it up to bring down the price of gasoline. And we're ready to hear from the White House on when you want us to ramp up. But the White House is not answering that question. In fact, when asked that question, specifically the answer was, we haven't addressed the situation. Compelling? Yes, very compelling. During an interview that happened this last week, the Treasury Secretary under Janet Yellen, Wally Adamut, an 40-year-old Yale graduate, was asked, have you reached out to West Texas? Has the administration reached out to West Texas to increase oil production in the United States to bring down the price of gasoline? Answer, non-responsive. Asked again. Answer, non-responsive. This is as the White House understood that this was one of the major industries that would be impacted with a potential invasion of Ukraine by Russia as early as last October. The White House actually dispatched Janet Yellen at the time and back in October, says the Deputy Treasury Secretary, to analyze economic embargoes or economic impacts at home that would be impacted by a Russian invasion of Ukraine. Among the issues dispatched at the time, oil. So the White House told Janet Yellen in October to analyze the impact on U.S. oil with a potential invasion of Ukraine. So at least the order was there to do what needed to be done in the analysis. So, with that instruction in hand, what was the opportunities? The opportunities is to determine whether we could ramp up production in West Texas to battle any shortages that may be impacted internationally. Well, tonight the situation is unchanged because guess what? West Texas hasn't heard from the White House. West Texas is waiting for to hear from the White House. And West Texas could increase production in the United States of oil, even though we aren't dependent upon oil in Russia. Here's what's at issue. The White House keeps on pivoting on a particular subject matter that's really off point. We don't import oil from Russia much, 5%. That's not part of the equation. Senators, House Republicans, Democrats talking about banning Russian oil. Great. 5% of our economy imports Russian oil. That's not part of the equation. The part of the equation is we need to ramp our production here so that we bring down the price of gasoline in the United States. This is not a Vladimir Putin equation. This is a West Texas equation. You go to West Texas, say, yes, you have authorization to ramp up production, go do it. Why is this so difficult? Why has the White House not ramped up production in West Texas? And why is the White House so reluctant to ramp up production in West Texas? Or is it? During the State of the Union address, the president addressed certain subjects of this, but afterwards said, I'm open to other opportunities. Open to other opportunities? Is he ramping up production? He's not. So why is this ebb and flow about ramping up production? Why is this even a subject that we need even to discuss? At issue is the moderate Democrats. Moderate Democrats don't want to ramp up production of gasoline in the United States. They want us to get off of gasoline and go to electric vehicles. Right after the President of the United States addressed the American people during the State of the Union address, what did he do? He went on Twitter and retweeted a tweet talking about how you should go buy a brand new electric pickup truck from a GM auto manufacturer that retails at $50,000 a pop. On point? Potentially not. The issue at hand is that millions of Americans can't afford a $50,000 electric truck. Millions of Americans fill their gas cars, because that's what they have, a gas car. Millions of Americans can't afford an electric vehicle that runs $50,000, $60,000, $80,000. And the plants that Joe Biden keeps on talking about that are U.S. based, that are part of the forced stimulus recon, that get that $12,500, you haven't heard them extensively on this channel for several weeks, but tonight I'm going to address them. What's at issue? The president's agenda to get off of clean energy, to get onto clean energy by reducing oil production is also misguided. because the vehicles he wants you to buy are made in U.S. plants by U.S. labor and retail at a pretty penny, $50, $60, $70, $80,000. It's not like he's telling the millions of Americans to go buy a $20,000 new electric vehicle made in a union plant by union labor. No, he's touting vehicles that only super rich people can afford. And the issue at hand is this out of touch? Well, millions of Americans were polled about the President's State of the Union address, and they loved it. The new series of polls that came out overnight suggests that millions of Americans love the President's address of the Ukrainian crisis. They like his address of the situation economically as well. But it's in times of need like this that you don't want to be really polling people, because we should come together as a country, support our president at a time of economic crisis and world events where a dictator is trying to destroy an entire economy, an entire population. So it's not a time and place to say, do we like Joe Biden or not? You've got to rally behind the guy that supports peace on the other side of the planet. What's an issue tonight is that, however, when we turn to wheat and oil, the president's really not prepared for this. When we look at the situation with oil, West Texas production can be ramped up, not being done. West Texas says, we're ready to do it. We're ready to hear from him. No response. And when asked for a very clear answer why the White House has not reached out to West Texas to increase production, the White House pivots and talks about something that's off subject. We don't use much Russian oil. We got that, Joe. We don't use much Russian oil. We're talking about our oil. Now, that's what we have to do domestically. We as a country are dependent upon world economies that we do partnerships with. France, Italy, Germany, England. And if they don't have enough oil, and we do have enough oil, then guess what? Our economy can go into recession as well, because we're dependent on the stability of the countries we do business with. And I'm not talking about Russia. I'm talking about countries like Italy. Italy has not had the opportunity from the White House to really pivot to another source of oil. The White House has not really stepped on this point either. What's at issue? Let's talk about United Arab Emirates. This is one of the major allies of the United States. We've helped them time and time again. We've helped other countries, the OPEC plus nations. And this week, the OPEC nations met, OPEC plus nations, part of a consortium that determines how much gasoline to produce out of those countries. And guess what they said? We're upset about what Vladimir Putin has done. We denounce his acts of aggression against Ukraine. But as to increasing oil, we ain't doing it. Sorry. We're staying at the current levels. What does this mean? In the case of United Arab Emirates, it has lots of oil it can release. It's not releasing it despite people's needs in those countries. And by not releasing that oil from United Arab Emirates that's in storage, that means it can't increase production. Remember, you can only store so much storage facility. With storage facilities at full capacity in these countries, that means they can't ramp up production. And that means countries like Italy can't get oil. And that means that countries that are dependent upon that oil internationally that we do business on are still waiting to get relief and not getting it across the board. NATO, UN, and other countries across the board should have seen this back in October. We already knew this. We had that order from the President of the United States delineating that oil and gasoline is a solution that needs to be solved. But tonight, folks, another situation. Wheat. Why is wheat the silent surprise economic factor that no one is looking at and could really throw us into a major recession? Tonight, I'm going to go into the details of why the bread you buy at the market could ultimately throw us into a tailspin of recession. And this is something that no one had prepared for in the White House, the Treasury, back in October. And tonight, I'm preparing for it as well. What's at issue? When you have a potential invasion of a neighboring country, like Vladimir Putin, Ukraine, on the potential horizon back in October, you look at all the economic impacts, not just oil. You also look at wheat. And the wheat situation was very clear. Why? This is very simple, folks. You look at the beautiful Black Sea, a gorgeous part of the Ukrainian border, very rich in soil, much like some of the Mediterranean communities or the wonderful towns here in Southern California, rich soil along the water. It's a major region to produce, yes, wheat. Everyone knew that Vladimir Putin would head to those areas of the Black Sea. Why? Because he took Crimea in 2014 and annexed it. And this was not something unanticipated. Odessa is his latest target. You're looking at the beautiful town of Odessa. Odessa is the major port city of the Black Sea. Vladimir Putin is yet to take Odessa. His purpose of taking Odessa is not calamity, destruction, which may actually occur, but economic disruption. Why? As the major port export city of the country of Ukraine, he's trying to stifle the economy by having Ukraine not be able to export and import. He's also trying to impact you at home. Why? Because Ukrainian wheat supplies many of our partner countries all their grain, wheat, and soybeans. That inability to provide that to the neighboring countries could destabilize those countries and then destabilize our prices. And guess what's happening? It's already happening. Here's what's happening tonight that can impact you faster than the price of oil. Wheat is going up. The wheat is too damn high. That's literally the expression of the channel tonight. The situation is that wheat prices are surging out of control because Ukrainian wheat is no longer part of the equation. Ukrainian wheat is no longer part of the equation, and our wheat prices are at an 8-time year high, 9-time year high. This is far more severe than what we talk about when we talk about gasoline or oil. Wheat is surging out of control, and if you're at the market, you've seen it already. Soybean, corn, and related agrarian products disrupted because they cannot get out of Ukraine, and that's training our prices back at home to record 10-year highs. The net result is that this situation is not solved. We go in recession. Not 1 year, but 2 years. Faster than even a recession with oil. You may have heard about the oil crisis in the 1970s, but you never heard about the wheat crisis. And you don't want to hear about the wheat crisis of the 2020-22 year as well. Where's corn tonight? Corn prices are trading out of control, up 19 to 29 cents. Soybeans are up 5 to 15 cents. And if you're viewing this channel a member, you're getting the latest updates in the membership newsletter nightly. The price of Chicago wheat went up 51 to 75 cents. Kansas City wheat went up 75 cents. And the numbers keep on surging, like Minnesota wheat up 18 to 60 cents. These are bad numbers, 8, 9, 10-year highs. This is why the situation needs to be handled quickly. But is the White House handling it at all? In a Reuters interview this week, they asked the White House whether the White House had done anything to deal with the situation. And the answer was no. The White House has not considered any options across the board. Meantime, back in the United States, countries are having to pivot that you would normally not buy wheat from other countries we don't do business with. A White House official told Reuters that there's no serious consideration by the White House right now on how to deal with the wheat crisis. Really? Again, we all knew that Vladimir Putin was going to head to the wheat area of Ukraine in October of last year. No order by the White House to dispatch an analysis of the situation, how to deal with it and impact our economy back home. Then, no deal about how to fix it right now. White House needs to dispatch Treasury to deal with the situation, get wheat prices under control, realign, and make sure that our partner countries get enough wheat. Because if they don't get enough wheat, their economies go into recession, and so do ours. A very, very fluid situation across the board, and far from over. Back here in the United States, there's a lot of opportunities for you to get money. And viewers are getting big sums of money. And tonight I'm going to show you how to get more of that money starting right now. Third stimulus has been one of the big success stories of this channel, and viewers are getting big sums of money from third stimulus. And third stimulus is still paying out. Yeah, we have a lot of checks in this recording. Fourth stimulus recon, the Build Back Better Act, has lots of checks, $50,000 to $60,000 of checks. Plus that MSC that would be added in there, $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter. We have CR for stimulus right around the corner of mid-March with that potential $2,000 stimulus check. We have SS300, and then we have those $80,000 of new checks announced on Friday going live next week. But what are these other checks from third stimulus? A big surprise. This channel launched in 2020. At the time, people needed money. And in fall 2020, I found it. It was renting utilities and mortgage assistance. At the time, I just said, hey, grab it. There wasn't a lot of it. When third stimulus was in the works in December 2020, I had a preview of it exclusively on the channel. I said, when this becomes law, there's going to be a lot of it. Guess what? That's third stimulus is still paying out viewers big sums of money. And the viewership of this channel is still getting those big sums of money tonight. How can you get that big sums of money? Get your pen and paper out. And if you're a member, get that newsletter out. It's featured in the newsletter. What is this? This is rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, and the viewership of this channel has gotten somewhere, anywhere between an average of 45,000 and as high as 150,000. Where do you get this money from? Here we go. You're going to reach out to your city hall, your city housing authority, your county hall, your county housing authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. What are you going to do? You're going to reach out to them and get those sums of money. You must reach out to all 6 places. You must put applications on file everywhere, and you must do multiple rounds. Now, tonight we see that those multiple rounds actually take a new face that we never saw before on this channel. Viewers are now, with those rounds, getting 5, 6, 12 months of rent, not the initial 3 to 5 months of rent that viewers were getting just a few days away. What's happened and why has it changed so dramatically across the board? The success stories that have come in the last few days show that viewers understand that you can get more sums of money than ever before. And here are the social success stories. Lorraine in Evenings LA's broadcast this week said, "Hey LA, I got qualified for a program that pays 70% of my rent for next 9 years." Incredible. She watched this channel and she got 9 years of rent at 70% paid for. Then after that, it'll become a lifetime. But she's not alone. Viewers of this channel are now defying logic. The average round on this channel for viewership for rent and utilities is 3 to 5 months. But in the last few weeks, viewers have ramped up to 10 months or more. Here's Nisi. She got $30,000 to this channel last year, got $10,000 last week, and got another $2,000 this week. Keep you in my prayers for the health and wishes. You should be present. I don't know. I think I'd fix the grain prices if I was. Bill Garacidi says, "Hey, LA, I got 1 year of rent from you this week. Thank you for your help." Incredible. 1 year of rent. And then we have Charles Garmon, who was in last night's Evenings LA show, got $1,000 of rent. Karen Phillips, she got $40,000. Excuse me, she got 3 months of rent and 3 months of utilities, and she really needed it. She says that she needed it right now more than ever before because guess what? She had just lost her jobs and she didn't know how she was going to pay for that rent and utilities. Earlier in this video, we talked about that big money for $80,000. It may look like third stimulus, so don't get confused. It's an addition to third stimulus. You can get both of them. Brian Donahue is another success story. Brian Donahue reveals that he got a second round of rent this week, and this is 5 more months of rent. Wow, that is incredible. These incredible success stories keep on coming in view of the events unfolding with oil and gas internationally. And you need those big sums of rent. Bob Bacon in the live chat every night got 3 more months of rent this week. And then the situation keeps on getting better by the moment. Here comes Karen Joseph. She got $40,000 this week. And then another viewer, $50,000. You can do it as well. Get these incredible sums of money. They're available for you. It's third stimulus. So where do you do it? You reach out to your city, county, and state, and you get those big sums of money, open that membership newsletter, and get it across the land. The average viewer of this channel has gotten $40,000, but do it right now. Open that membership newsletter, get the details right away. And lean on those nonprofits because the nonprofits often pick up for these sums of money when the city and county doesn't have the money. Do it right away. The average viewer of this channel has gotten $45,000 from this third stimulus. And don't wait, that money is available across the land. When we look at the situation of oil and gas across the country tonight, folks, the situation is falling dramatically, and this is why you need money across the land. But what's happening with Vladimir Putin and his acts of aggressions that are impacting us at home? I'll be turning now to that part of the story tonight. As Vladimir Putin's acts of aggressions have involved both an economic advance against Western ally countries, a strategic advance, and a propaganda advance. But it's the human rights situation that tonight is the most disturbing across the board. What's happening on the human rights front? The human rights front went from good to bad in the last few hours. And potentially by the time of this recording, hopefully the situation will be improving. What do you need to know and what is happening tonight on this front as well? Tonight, the situation is that a corridor that was established for refugees to flee war-torn Ukraine for women and children has been blocked. What's going on? During negotiations this week between Russian and Ukrainian officials, the only glimmer of hope was a deal to establish a element, a corridor, to evacuate war-torn cities of Ukraine and head to the Polish border. This is an area in which people could flee. Let's go over the visual. What would this look in your city back at home? It would look like your major highway has been cleared off. You can be told that during the following 5 hours of tomorrow and the day after, you can get your belongings and head down towards the Polish border. Flee during those hours. You will be safe. There will be no bombings. There will be no militia. There will be no military. That's the visual. So you prepare, you know the hour of the day, you get the official statement from your city leader in Ukraine, and you prepare your daughter and the mother and her grandmother head to that street at that hour of the day. That was the result of negotiations between Ukrainian and Russian officials. They did not give us details initially because they didn't want a major press event about it. That was part of their agreement. Fine with that. But what happened was, as those mothers and daughters went to those corridors, as we call them, and were ready to start walking, they heard it. What's it? Bombings. And then they saw it. What do they see? Russian military blocking their exit from their town. Not a good situation. And this is why, again, another human rights violation is being levied against Russia. It can't even agree to allow the peaceful exit of women and children from Ukraine to neighboring Poland through corridors that it actually negotiated with Ukrainian officials during hours of negotiations. This is abhorrent. It's absolutely abhorrent. And this shows the lack of kindness to manhood, to mankind, by a barbarian named Vladimir Putin. These evacuation corridors were set up in 2 Ukrainian cities, but Russia is now violating those orders. The time of this broadcast is made about 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on a Saturday. And Russian officials and Ukrainian officials are agreeing to sit down again to reopen these corridors. Hopefully, the situation will improve by the time you watch this broadcast. And all the latest details in the live chat when this broadcast airs. But the city of Mariupol, which is not featured in this graphic, this, of course, is the beautiful city of Gershon that was desecrated last week, was not afforded this opportunity. What happened? In the city of Mariupol, this is one of 2 Ukrainian cities where women and children were able to flee. They were given 5 hours to go into a corridor, which is basically a large section of the town, to exit and head to the Polish border. They prepared their belongings, they got ready to go. And what happened? They heard it. Bombings. And they saw it. Russian officials blocking their exit. Why is this happening? The official statement is going out on the Mariupol City Council website and via Telegram channel that Russia's forces, who had agreed to an all-out, complete ceasefire on early Saturday to allow the peaceful fleeing, then blocked it. Unfortunately, when we were already ready, the regular army of the Russian Federation began shelling along the corridor. You're looking at beautiful footage of Odessa, also at issue. Negotiations still underway right now. This doesn't give us a sense of security. As soon as we'll give a security guarantee, but we will additionally announce it. This is deplorable that even women and children cannot flee a war-torn country in an act of war. The NATO alliance is also calling upon Russia to acknowledge that these are women and children, they are not armed, and that they should be able to flee safely into Poland and Romania and not be blocked. President Zelensky has urged for NATO to establish a no-fly zone. That will not be happening. A no-fly zone would bring U.S. troops into the battleground because they would have to enforce the no-fly zone. U.S. officials are not displacing any U.S. troops currently for a no-fly zone. Meantime, Russian and Ukrainian officials are set to sit down again and potentially reach an agreement to allow the safe exit through these corridors, but we really don't know why tonight that Russia failed to stand by its agreement to allow women and children to safely flee into Poland. They left their homes, went to the corridors, and then had to turn back because they saw those Russians at the barricades. Tonight, the situation unfolding as the number of refugees grows from 500,000 to 2 million. Internationally, the situation is very fluid. Many believe that this war will not be 1 week or 2 weeks. My prediction is going to be several weeks at least. The situation is far from over, and what's Vladimir Putin's approach at the moment? His approach at the moment is economic control of Ukraine, and then potentially something worse. Now, here's a commentary that I want to insert tonight. And the commentary I don't take credit for. I actually defer to Christiana Ampor. She had this comment earlier today. Vladimir Putin is quoted in a new quote tonight that is very troubling because the choice of words he uses. He says, Ukraine doesn't exist. When you say the words Ukraine doesn't exist, it doesn't mean that you now control it. It doesn't mean that you've controlled its economy. It means that there's a human genocide that is about to happen. These are very troubling words coming out of Vladimir Putin tonight. On the economic front, what is Vladimir Putin trying to do to Ukraine? He's trying to stifle its economy. Number one, he's trying to take the count of Odessa, which you're seeing in this footage here, the major port city, so that it cannot export to anywhere or import. So Ukrainians cannot get fed and cannot have any food or supplies, and that Western allies that depend upon that as well can't get their benefits across the board. Then, what is he also trying to do? He's trying to eliminate any power for the Ukrainian people. Yesterday, he took over the number one nuclear reactor in the country of Ukraine that provides 80% of the power for Ukrainian people. So he's trying to prevent any power, any food, and tonight, or at least at the time of this recording, trying to prevent anyone from fleeing Ukraine as well. He's now been designated as a war criminal, and a war criminal tribunal has now been reportedly established to begin the elements that need to begin. But back in the United States, more details that have to be addressed. Wheat, oil, gasoline. Certain things need to be addressed on the front back at home, and those can be done very quickly. International alliances between our partner countries need to be firmed up when it comes to economic issues like oil production and the amount of oil that we send out and the amount of oil that we have reserved. We can only stockpile so much oil, and after that we have to release some. And after we release some, then we can make some more. But we have to have agreements. And those agreements haven't happened. This White House is good with agreements. This White House has done fast agreements. And it's at times like this that we need fast agreements, that we're into the second week of this war, and we shouldn't be waiting another day for this as well. Tonight, I send my prayers and thoughts to the people of Ukraine. I certainly send my prayers and thoughts to the families, mothers and daughters, who went into those corridors in the last 24 hours trying to flee, having left their sons behind to battle the war. And they thought as sons and daughters, grandmothers, pregnant women, that they were going to be fine fleeing to the border, to only hear the sounds of desecration around them, to only hear the sounds of military ambushes in front of them, and to wonder, wait a second, what happened? Certainly in a digital era, we're beneficial because we have the opportunity as a city council in Ukraine to actually tweet out a message or post a Facebook message, get back in your home. Imagine we didn't have digital era in that environment as well. Finally, a very unusual kind act story that's sort of circulated out of nowhere today. If you didn't hear about it, some Americans have come up with the idea, and other people internationally, to book Airbnbs in Ukraine. Why? The way to send the money to Ukraine, some people thought, why not book Airbnbs at Airbnbs that would have existed just 2 weeks ago? The easiest way to get a money funneled into the country. Beautiful thoughts across the board. Viewers of this channel have also talked about how to send support to our troops. I want you to understand that your U.S. troops are not in Ukraine. They're in the NATO-based countries. And Vladimir Putin has not yet exerted any elements of aggression against those NATO-based countries. But we're only week 2 into this equation. The situation is unfolding by the hour. I appreciate all your incredible support. If you have a private message about what you want to have covered on Evenings LALATE, send it to me. If you have a success story, send it to me. If you have a thought and commentary about another economic subject that you think at issue, or you want to send out some message, send it to me as well. It's a developing story, and there's a lot of elements at issue. Too much to cover sometimes in 1 hour broadcasts. But I really appreciate you helping this show grow and this community grow. As a family, we've come together stronger than ever before, the Purple Power community. And as a community, we are surviving and we're growing. In a week in which we took our masks off, and a week in which we heard a great State of the Union address, and the release of more checks, we're growing as a family. We're getting better. We're getting stronger. We're getting more resilient. And in times of economic crises like tonight, we're doing everything better across the board. We'll do better as a family, and we'll survive better as a community. It's a big night, and I send my prayers as always with the families overseas as Evenings LA continues. Stay throughout the night with Evenings.